Yeah. I'm just going to riff off of his energy. I'm Griffin Warner. I'm the lead animator at Surgent Studios, and I also look after the VFX and tech art team.
Hello, I'm Ackeem Durrant, and I'm the lead artist at Surgent Studios. When it came to the emotional aspect, the reason why I specifically liked this game and the pitch for it was because of some of my favorite stories are just like a death, and then how to grieve with that, how to resonate with it. In my head, I was sitting back thinking, I really like this story, but it's a story everyone can relate to as well. So
hopefully not, but sooner or later, everyone can relate to. Similarly. So when I talked to Abu, it was a story that was quite familiar, resonated with me. I wanted to know more. I wanted to, dig into it. The visuals for me, more than the story, were what drew me in initially. So a lot of the art side, a lot of what you guys worked on.
Was it sort of an Afrocentric pitch as well that Abu gave you? Something different?
And I was born in South Africa, so for me, a lot of that was like this deep nostalgia, or just this. I got a really great feeling from it. That I wanted to be part of it,
and you could contribute to it in a meaningful way as well, with just for visual references. Because for me, it's honestly when I be pitched, I was like, "This is the game I want to make," which is why I'm joining your studio. I had no idea who he was, what he was really doing. I knew he was Bayak when I Googled him. Well, when he messaged me, it was quickly followed by a Google search just to make sure like this is legit. It's not just some random guy, right?
Did he message you?
Yeah, he messaged me on ArtStation randomly. So then it was, okay, cool. I love this story. I love this world. I have no confidence necessarily in the studio. Thankfully, I took that leap and it's been great. But yeah, the world and the story is really what brought me in.
So for animation, for VFX, for tech art, we're all in the middle of every other discipline. We're like the sinew that sort of sticks to art, design code, audio, everything. Exactly. It's interactive. The player will touch all of it. So I mean, I've bounced off of just about every other lead. So
for characters, you're supposed to feel like the character naturally fits in this environment and they tell that story from you seeing them. They're supposed to be relatable, appealing, all of those things, but then they should also tell a story within themselves. And then the art lead role, it should be this environment should support what we're telling you at every moment in time. You should see something, right? And then it should be relating to the story around it. It should frame that world. There should be like visual metaphors that you don't even notice.
If we've done our jobs right, it's invisible.
Exactly.
And nobody's going to comment, nobody's going to pick up on it, but it should feel right.
Yeah, it should feel amazing as they're running through it. We had a board of putty that was, okay, now shape this into a character. We have a concept, now make it feel like our character. We didn't even have an art style yet. We were that really dark, twisted fantasy style. So it's like, okay, cool, let me go there, but then it's not appealing enough. And then, okay, this is too childlike, but now it's childish enough. And it was that whole mix of things. So it was finding the character initially for me, because I was the character artist before. Because I've come on after Michaela Dawn, who was the amazing art director before myself, or lead artist before myself, it's now just continuing her amazing work, really, right? It's making sure everything feels right within the world, but also now we're at the polishing stage and we're at the refining stage. It's making sure that we're refining with intention.
We don't want to copy every other game going. There are lots of things to learn from. For me, what the team has been doing has driven us so much better. Riffing off of the characters, the designs, the concept art, the animations only work because the characters work. They're rigged really well. Seeing what you've been doing has inspired and driven us to like push it and just make it the best version it could be.
And I mean, likewise for obviously VFX within your department, but then also the environment and the tech art adding to that at this stage as well. So now we're at the stage where everything's building on top of each other. And that's where we move from.
It's very iterative.
Yeah,
it is very iterative, very collaborative.
Yeah,
and that's where game design is. It shines where it's fun. That's when the job is a great one to do.
When it's fun iterating, then you have a brilliant process, which it has been for us. So yes, exactly. With Zao specifically, with the character, not even so much the game necessarily, right? Initially we want something appealing. Kina just came out at the time, Kina Bridge of Spirits. So we want to compete. We don't want to be left behind. So we wanted something appealing, something striking, something that fit with our vision, even though we didn't necessarily know what that was, right? But it was also, as a character artist, you are sort of the front runner for the team. You do put a character out and then everyone says, this is what we're making now. So that's what I really wanted to do when I pushed Zao out as well, because we only had one character artist at the time. So it's like, cool, just make it happen like that.
It was quite a tough one from, so there's the tech side, bringing the character to life to allow it to be animated. So we had Jodie, who did a whole bunch of great things that allowed us to have an easy pipeline from Blender through to Unreal. So the rigs were great to work with, easy to animate. We could go back and forth and change things without too much hassle. So that made it really, really easy. So creatively then, we were really trying to nail down the character of Zhao. Who is he? And I think we've honored what we sort of set out to do. I think we had core pillars. He was a very nimble, very cocky, sure of himself, but like there's a little bit of doubts. And his story is one that the narrative is, it goes places. It doesn't it's not static.
Exactly.
In terms of visuals for Zhao, then we were trying to be respectful of his history, where he might have come from, even though it's made up to a degree. We took references from African boxing, Dambe, which was really interesting. A lot of the weapons and the combat was also trying to find inspiration that was respectful and meaningful to the character was quite difficult, because when we have spears, a lot of that is Eastern spear fighting, which is not right at all for this setting. So we looked more at African short spears and how you might use them, but they weren't always the thrown weapons, so we had to improvise and then make them melee. And
that's another important thing, I guess, culturally as well, respecting the culture that we're using, and we're mainly basing it on ancient Bantu mythology, but we want to also introduce other African cultures as well, because there's just so much, right? So we're mixing, we're gathering references from different places, but we also want you guys to sort of sit in this world, and it feels like a fantastical version, a fantasy version of the mythology that we're capturing. So when it comes to the art direction of the game, we're taking very much real world inspiration, and then just adding our twist to it. With the music as well, chained into all of this. So the music takes big inspiration from the mythology, and we've been taking a lot of cues from the music when it comes to the games as well, when it comes to the boss fights or the environment when you're just walking through, if it's supposed to just be ambient, really good sound, or if it's supposed to be intense and you're supposed to be on edge.
With Zhao, he's the center of the whole game. The whole narrative, the story revolves around him, and we're trying to tell a very human story. And it is fantastical, but we're trying to take all of those elements and bring them back and make them feel relatable and make them feel just human.
Depending on style you pick, it does have an influence on the type of story we tell as well. So it's like, cool, you can have a really stylized game and then you can tell a serious story, but it sort of takes away, you want the art style to also mirror what you're also saying. So for us, finding that balance there, it wasn't necessarily tricky, but we want something with that appeal that you can get from stylization, but we still want you to feel like the characters are either relatable or can get in a really serious situation that you'd get in the real world.
They're really funny. They're really funny as great well. Moments in there, like audio and narrative have knocked it out of the park.
So that's that juxtaposition as well, that we want high fantasy ruins, but then very much grounded architecture where you feel like you're almost walking through, and you can get an inkling of, this is how the cities may have looked, even though you're in the clouds with floating mountains around you.
And it's 2.5D, and we're locked into this perspective. The limitations were quite difficult to work with, but have driven us to find solutions that worked.
Even with 2D dialogue, for example, when we finally got that in, because we were playing the game for a long time without it, and just going through sort of without cutscenes, 2D dialogue or portraits. When we finally got those in and we're hearing the audio with that did a lot for the emotion, the narrative, the pacing, the feel of the game. So we want the players to feel something, but we want them to feel something from a different perspective, because it is a different perspective, one that's not told a lot. So we want that to feel genuine, and we don't want anything to feel forced as well. So,
and it changes moment to moment. So we need to have a flow that feels good, like playing it for hours or playing for a few minutes at a time.
Exactly.
The gameplay will differ. So in traversal, in combat, we want the player to feel cool ultimately. If it feels cool, we've done our job, but genuine and human and relatable at the same time. So we're sort of hitting these real superhero moments and then bringing it back and grounding it, and then it's ups and downs all the time.
No, exactly. And of course you're talking to a god, so it's like
it's just normal, right? I'm excited for players to just experience traversal that feels fluid. I think fluid is a word we kept going back to try and, we don't want any breaks. We want the player to jump around and jump off of walls and enemies and fight them and just get in a flow state that feels fun to play. How you interact with the world, like with animation, VFX and tech art, we've got a lot of systems that all of those are integrated. and interactable within the world. So we have running water everywhere that you can freeze with Bamba's stone. Thaw out again with Ikida's spear breaker. Everything's interactable. It feels really cool. Like everything's got a purpose and it's meaningful.
It's honestly the setting and the music, even though music isn't my department. It's the setting, the music, and just playing something and getting immersed and lost in it. That's one of my favorite things to do when I play a game anyway. I love soundtracks and I love visuals and just being around everything. And then, there's the combat, there's the story is actually another thing that I am most excited for players to just get to experience. And just for 2D dialogue sequences, just the back and forths, stuff like that. It's a 2.5D game, but I very much, when I play it, I don't necessarily feel like it is. I feel like it's sort of more expansive than it seems, which I don't get from a lot of 2.5D games. It's sort of go in, come out, and it's sort of pick up and play, right? But this one, I do have that aspect of pick up and play, but then I also have I can go for the story and get different narrative stuff as well.
You want to devour it all.
Yeah, exactly.
The dialogue stuff is interesting because we were quite limited in what we could do with the characters. We didn't have facial rigs on most of the characters. We can't get in too close. We also can't take the camera off too far because the world isn't built. But the dialogue really brings it together. And I think, what am I most excited for? Everything everybody else has done, because it's so it's so good.
All the enemies, all the characters, when they were just signed off, and it's like, yes, we're done. Weight off my shoulder.
I mean, leading on from that, they were done, but then they come to our team and we see them, and then we get so many more ideas. So actually, when we saw the bosses and the scale of the bosses, there's they have to be bigger. Bigger was the mantra.
Well, that was Abu's mantra every time he saw the Impundu.
So that they have to fit on screen. The bosses, seeing the bosses was fantastic. So getting these molded balls of clay that we could breathe life into. They already looked awesome, but then we could take them further and put them in and give them to code and design to tune and tweak. And now they're living, breathing creatures. All of the enemies, not just the bosses. I think when everyone went into the game, there's this brand new creature that lives in Kenzera that you can now run away from or fight. That felt really cool.
When the Impundu went in, and then when we're going up Highlands and we get that initial screech, and then we had a long period of time, a few months, where that was it. We never got
that was the
else.
Impundu.
Yeah, that was the Impundu. Everyone was satisfied as that. We have a screecher now. It's all good. Nowadays, though, my biggest satisfaction, or the thing that's the most meaningful, is sort of just being because it's mainly the environment that I'm managing. It's just as long as the artist can sign off on something and say, yep, I've had a good amount of time on this. I feel like I've gotten to do everything I've wanted to do. I'm happy. That's my biggest thing, battling for time so that my artists can really get their intent across. Because I think that's what's really going to make the game feel special, right? When you're running through each different biome, seeing all this stuff that you don't even notice on your first playthrough. And then on second playthrough, you can come back and you can actually see more. That's what really makes me happy nowadays.
And for me, it's taking that and making it interactive. Putting in gameplay systems, putting in hazards. The team have done a fantastic job just making them feel part of the world, feel interactive and dangerous. I touched on this before, but I think a lot of what's surprising about animation and tech art VFX is how technical the work is. We're touching all of the blueprints and code of the game, making interactive elements. So my team will be making things in the world that wait for the player and react to the player, and vice versa. The player will be reacting to things that happen in game, changing the animations based on the surroundings or the behavior you're currently doing. It gets really technical, and there are so many systems built around that. You'll just see a character running, but actually there's a lot going in. IK slopes, notifies for VFX and audio, and so much.
It's more the creative process rather than the technical process for me, because I hand it off to you guys, and you guys do an amazing job of that, so I don't need to worry about it. But it is I guess it's making a world where you feel like everything belongs there and everything's cohesive, and doing that. I think the bigger achievement is that, or the thing that scared me the most about coming on this is that I was going to be the solo character artist, right? But that's also the challenge that I wanted to approach. So for any character artist that would look into getting into the field, it's that would be probably the most intimidating thing you'd hear up to a certain point in your career. So that's the thing for me, really making a group, a collective for an entire game, and then being Hair players, have at it. Hopefully these all feel cohesive and they work and the bosses all feel good and, you know, it's just all one seamless thing. If I've achieved that, or if players don't feel that, then I think that's the most impressive thing.
You have achieved it.
Thank you. I play this game whenever we do the play testing or the days of play. Although we've done it a few times now, I literally still come in just to hear the dialogue, see the things play out, and then just go through the story. And yeah, I'm still piecing the pieces together. For like you said, the story is so open. It's like we can interpret it different ways. So I am still just interpreting it and hearing little things, and you know, we're revamping audio and stuff like that. So just going through and piecing those things together, that's the best in class for me.
What about artistically and then on the environment?
Artistically, best in class for me is again just getting lost and immersed in the environment. It is the team seeing things that weren't intended to be seen, or taking the time out to look at something. If you take the time out to look at a vista, we've done what we set out to do, right? It's a vista. You're supposed to just sit there a little bit, let it simmer. It's not easy to do that for a game that's like, I can just hit this or hit that and I can just go about doing this. But yeah, that would be the thing for me. And then outside of that, again, music, just music running through the world. That goes hand in hand with visuals, of course, well. So it is loving the music we're making for the game, where it's coming from, and then having the visuals to tie that in as well. Yeah, those things really. All
of that, yeah, I can just get lost just loading the game and sitting in one spot and listening to the audio, the ambience, the music. Yeah. Is just, it's great. I could sit there for hours. It's a game that I never get tired of playtesting, which is very rare. I think when I've played most games I've worked on, at some point they can get a little dry, but I never get bored of just running around. The traversal is solid. So for me, just getting anywhere feels right. Yeah. So bouncing off of walls and ledging and jumping over those, it's a smooth, fluid process that I think we've nailed pretty well. VFX and tech art wise, I mentioned it earlier, but the water, the flowing waterfalls, the geysers, when you freeze those sort of mid flow, it just works and it looks incredible. Yeah.
You know what got me addicted as well? That I take advantage of, I take for granted now, the trails on the moon mask. When we go through, just the apparitions that come as you phase through the air and you dash. Yeah, when those initially went in, I would just dash for the sake of it. I still do it now, but now I've forgotten that I do it because of that. Previously, I didn't just dash.
But it's become invisible, and it's become one of those things that just feels right.
Exactly. So yeah, in terms of VFX, it is those just secondary effects that we play now that feels good, and the player wouldn't know, what's really feeling good. Which again, is that silent appreciation that you really want when someone's playing your game as well. We're artists, so we'll work endlessly, we'll polish to the ends of the earth on something.
Forever.
Yeah, and it's like production will stop us, which we're thankful for the most part. But it is the scheduling, making sure we fit in everything we want and deciding what's important that we actually want to keep and that we actually want to get rid of.
It's really tough when we have to say, good enough. This is good enough. Yeah. It goes in, when really our team just want to polish it and make it the best it possibly can be.
Yeah, as an artist, good enough.
It isn't.
Yeah. You never want to say good enough on something. You're like, what? Yeah, let me make it perfect.
We could work on this forever, but I think we're happy with what we've achieved. That's all we can do.